everybody. Kitty, be careful. I'm moving this right now because she is going to leap. So I went to pop in today, taking some time out of my cleaning. I took some time out of my writing to actually clean my house, which has been horribly neglected since what, August or September. I've been pouring myself into these books for months, so took a day to Kitty, clean up all my mess. I mean, even my sink is like so full. That is not me, but that's what happens when you have a quindecile going on somewhere in your chart. Obsessive focus. Sometimes it can work out, but not in the context of keeping a clean house. So I want to talk today about Jupiter going retrograde in Cancer until March 10th. March 10th. Yeah, the 11th to the 10th. So, well, what does this mean? Because Jupiter is the bubble of hope, what we look forward to, what elevates us, and has a lot to do with our energy because it's that forward motion that has a lot to do with what is it that we hope for or are looking forward to. So when our bubble starts to shrink, we have less energy, particularly if Jupiter's prominent in your chart. You can go from a full battery to 0% extremely quickly. It is worse for me than most people. It is embarrassing on Jupiter retrograde days. I try not to work on those days, although sometimes I'm not as mindful and I accidentally will. It is so hard to maintain your energy level. Kitty, stop it. You're too fat to be up there. I'm sorry, we're going to have an annoying cat. We start out at like 100% battery, and we're like, okay, yeah, I plugged in. I'm good to go. I had a good night's sleep. I had a good enough breakfast. Here we go. And then you get that notification, warning, low battery, 5%. And physiologically, we just go like really quickly. So we need to be more mindful about how we distribute our energy, what we plan, what the scope is of what we're doing that day and how we are going to get it done. Frankly, we aren't, we don't have much gas in us as we usually do. And it doesn't matter that you gassed up. So just keep in mind that there's a reason why we don't have what it takes to fully power through when we have this retrograde motion coming in there. So give yourself a break. This is all happening inside of the sign of Cancer. And so we don't have a mixed meaning, as we often can when we have retrograde planets, Uranus being a prime example right now, just having gone retrograde back into Taurus for a time. Jupiter's going to recover its steps in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the homeland. Cancer is our primary roots. And it is also stability. It's what we depend on. It's our tribe. Habitual emotional patterns, conditioning, imprinting. So there's a recovery of a loss of hope, faith in the themes of this particular sign, or a reassessment or a continued deflation. The recovery happens more towards the forward motion as we recover the degrees. So I shouldn't have put that at the front of the paragraph. So reassessment regarding the things that we will recover when Uranus then regains its ground, coming up in March. So it is a feeling of deflation or losing ground, losing hope, losing faith in what it is that we call home. Sources of belonging. This is going to have a really big effect on our idea of patriotism. What do we put our faith and hope in, and why? What are our shared stories? Jupiter is that. The shared cultural ideas and ideals that explain as a particular group what the world is, our shared cultural mythologies that as a particular culture we define as the truth of things, or the agreed upon harmonious, cohesive story that we all share. And it's very much the basis of the type of laws that we come to. So there's a big assessment of law, which is a Jupiter thing. We create law based on the aspirations and the collective ideals, the hopes, the morality of a particular culture. We enforce it in Saturn with Capricorn. That's the next step in the evolution of the signs. So the creation of it, the aspirational aspect of law, what do we want to be, stage. And then how do we enforce it? Do we enforce it? Is the enforcement in tune with the ideals? The reason why we're creating certain kinds of laws. Sometimes those two things are in tune with each other, sometimes they're not. And the cycles within cycles, the cyclical nature of these transiting planets that talk about the evolution of collective bodies, sociology, our shared stories, our reasons for hope. Those are all things that over the course of time we can watch the ebb and flow and evolution of. And so we come into a period of reassessing our shared values, our shared stories, our shared ideals, and our morality in the sign of the homeland. We are likely to see some reassessments, judgments, interpretations of the law that are more in service to a traditional cohesive stability rather than upsetting or progressive breakthroughs during this period of time. And we are likely to see, yes, a bubble, a deflation, a hope that keeps all the plates spinning in marketplaces, that following this, you're being in tune with this natural recession, rethinking. This Jupiter is growth, speculation, has a lot to do with risk as well. And so, yes, things, lost stage, that's a good point. Things, regarding mortgages, that's home. Jupiter is the aspiration of owning a home. Things related to our beliefs and morality and religion about the family. All of these things are up for a look-see, a reassessment, or a realignment. We are not used to market adjustments anymore because there's been a long-term policy here of not allowing recessions. And so we've been dealing with the big boys having gone through Capricorn. It was really when we saw a more artificial market that was no longer it was no longer descriptive of the emotional marketplace. It was more descriptive of late stage capitalism, where you see more hollowed out institutions and marketplaces and ways of doing business or finance that is more window dressing, because we've went into a place of very much hollowed out institutions. And when you have hollowed out institutions, when you have a loss of faith in what you're all doing, you're done. Your goose is cooked. There isn't a Jupiterian glue that is that shared cultural ideal that we're all working towards. So that was really the end of the end, we've been in the beginning of the end since the mid-90s. Honestly, it was certain elements of trade that really had us screwing ourselves in terms of healthy, more localized, realistic-based economies and systems of trade. So I'm not a financier, but I do study cycles within cycles. So this isn't my wheelhouse. I'm a relationship astrologer, but I know some stuff about this kind of thing. So there's a bubble that contracts anytime Jupiter goes retrograde. As it was going through Capricorn a few years ago with Saturn, with Pluto, that was the biggest pop in the collective bubble that we've ever had. And that was really where we started having marketplaces, storefronts that are not indicating the real level of what's going on. And, there was a lot of things, a lot of policies that came about around that time that institutionally, when it comes to the sovereignty, the health, the reality of our institutions, we really made some decisions, things just even as normalized now as stock buybacks, ideas like that, that when you put these in place, you start to get a very artificial agreement. And traditionally, the marketplace, the stock market, is more descriptive of the emotional body. Now it's descriptive of a very few investors that are, or very few people that are in that particular, in those particular markets. The very sort of wink, wink, nod, nods agreements, like open conspiracies. Everybody kind of knows what's going on here. And so the market doesn't indicate what it used to. And that's why we see this very strange phenomenon right now, where the market keeps going up or has been going up, but the public at large is doing worse. We're not doing better. And traditionally, if the market was going up, that meant the markets that it was describing, or the population at large, was also having growth, more prosperity. So we have this very interesting illusion of growth and of marketplace health. But at the same time, we have mass desperation, poverty. A lot of people are paying up to half their income for health coverage. And we can see that over the course of the next months, that kind of thing is going to compact. And we are already starting to see a snowball effect in the marketplaces. So we will have the pinpoint that comes up in the next months, where a lot of numerous pressures and a lot of spinning plates, a lot of plates that have been in the air here for a good 10 years, are going to start coming down. So it gives us a lot of reasons to rethink what we've put our faith in. The reasons that we have to be hopeful about this or that belief, what is actually true, because we will be going through a place where we feel very much like orphan children. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. And that's the sign of the family, the homeland, belonging. And Jupiter is societal belonging. And so a lot of us are going to get real hungry for a good old-fashioned home cooking. And start to think about some of the agreements that we used to have among ourselves, and start to look at how we can balance progress, the inevitability of change, how we can balance that with tradition, stability, tried and true things, and come to see that progress is not always a sign of decay. So a lot of people are going to be feeling very depressed. And Jupiter is abundance too. And although it does well in Cancer, it's an emotional, insular sign. Jupiter is not an insular planet. It's an extroverted, outgoing, adventurous planet. But it brings comfort to where we want that the most in the sign of Cancer. So there's a lot of us that are mourning our old ideals, our old beliefs, our old agreements. And if we try to bring back the past, we're wasting our energy and we're wasting our time when it comes to developing solutions, because inevitably, Uranus will always come to town. And there will always be change. Uranus always wins. And that's a good point, Lost Stage. A lot of emotion stored in the hips. Jupiter is about that. It's about the muscles that power us and make it possible for us to have the kind of structure and the strength to power ourselves up an incline so we can see what is out beyond, all the way to the horizon. So we don't have that really expansive outlook for a while, because Jupiter is turned inwards. This is more inward travel to see what is worth believing in. Who is worth believing in? Jupiter is also excess, gluttony, more than what you need. You know, a lot of us will be looking at who is it that we look to create or to participate with us in the creation of law based on our collective aspirations about what we want to be and where we all want this to go. What does this all mean to us? Whatever culture it is that you happen to be a part of, and we're looking at world culture because we are a world culture at this point, ever since the internet came around. We don't just share information, we've been sharing consciousness. We've been sharing our lives. We've even come to this very interesting phenomena in the world where our broad sense of humor is very much the same. And that was not the case when I was growing up. This happened pretty quickly with the invention of the internet. I'm in my early 50s now. When I was young, we all had very specific humor and senses of humor. I spent some years in England as a child. That's where I learned to ride horses. That's why I still ride English. And, you know, in the 80s, the early and mid 80s, it was still a very distinct English sense of humor. Now we are very much similar. We laugh at a lot of the same things and we get a lot of the same things. And this is worldwide. You can see this across the board. That's a Jupiter sign of shared culture, Jupiter's humor, our interpretation of things. So this is also a growing pain regarding the inevitability of shared experiences, creating a type of shared worldview. It's very different than any way we've ever lived before. We just didn't have that capacity. So it's going to be a rather depressing time overall when it comes to seeing through some reasons that we thought were worth hoping for, or things that we had legit reasons for hoping for. We might see that things have changed. A crisis of faith in things regarding the homeland and our idea of belonging. And that can be more close to home, because these are social things. So Jupiter, anything from 7th house onto the 12th, Libra, Venus through Neptune, is a social and personal, but it's a slower moving thing. So it shows things that happen on a social scale or a ecological scale even, or a era, the scale of an era. So Jupiter is those changes that cultures go through within about a year's time. It's also abstract. It's abstract language and abstraction in general. And it shows us how flexible and fast to morph and change with current ideas and stories language is. So we are coming to more and better, I guess, better agreements as Jupiter comes out of retrograde and goes back through Cancer regarding what something is. We haven't been able to agree within societies for a while now about the meaning of something. And we have a lot of people rethinking what it is to know something. What is it to know something? Is being told or hearing something, does that constitute knowing it? And who and what is full of hot air? This is a big thing too. Jupiter's hot air, and it's coming into water. So this is very much, especially when we have Mars aspects that are going to come around here. This is very much that scene from The Wizard of Oz. We have that scary witch. And it's at the very end. And she pushes it too far. A Jupiter thing. Hubris. Lack of balance. She got emotional. And she ended up with a big old bucket of water. And in her rage, declared, "I'm melting. I'm melting." We may see figures that push their luck too far in that same position. So it will be a rough retrograde. There will be more tears because this is an emotional sign. And I think a lot of us are going to be mourning our old lives, our old agreements. But that opens the door for us to make new ones. For us to decide, what do we want to be now? Okay, that's what we were then. What is the best that we can take from that? And given what we know now, because this was a grand experiment, America was. We do have Uranus on the descendant. No joke. It's part of our shadow side. And we're coming to the Uranus return, which happens every 85 plus years or so. America and other countries are coming to a place where we have to make some new agreements. And we get to decide, what do we want to be? And we can bring the best of the past and couple it with our highest and best aspirations. Jupiter is a risk. That's why it's so much fun, because we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. If we did know, we probably wouldn't want to go on the adventure in the first place, because we would already know how it's going to turn out. So it's important for us to personally consider how we want to live. This is leading up to the full moon in Cancer coming up January 3rd. I just wrote a write-up about that because I'm making up my transit calendar for 2026. That's a powerful full moon. Whoa. Whoa. In terms of new cycles, new agreements, Venus and Mars conjunct to the Sun. Sun exactly smack dab in the midpoint between Venus and Mars opposing the moon in Cancer. That is bringing us up to a place where we have more shared ideas about the kind of institutions. It's a new start regarding the kinds of rules, regulations, institutions, and our collective ideal of normal and normalcy. Normalcy and stability are tethered to reality. So we do have a culmination point coming up here. Between now and then, I think we're going to feel very rudderless. And that does not mean that just in the early part of next year, everything is going to be fixed. It's not. We're going to be in a period of continued tumultuous times until about 2032. And next year is going to be extremely tense. But we will have some fits and starts within that period of time where we do have some things working themselves out. along that timeline of disintegration. Integration does come in very much like a conjunction. They come, one implies the other. And I just had another really good point and I completely let it slip my mind. Come back to me. Guess not. So, what else to say? Oh, July. That's what it was. July of next year, we're going to have a few talkie poos here before July comes up. And it's right around the period of United States solar return. You will not believe the pileup of outer planet influences with triggers that are coming in with inner planet influences. It is crazy the amount of building tension that we could really see the cork blow off of this in July. So we'll talk more about that as it comes up. I'm still studying it. But the changes that we want to see, the breakthroughs that we need to have, that is going to be one of the bigger birth points of necessary progress and changes finally breaking through. And it is going to come with quite a bit of conflict. So we'll talk about it more as it gets closer. But this is a day where we need to give ourselves room to run out of battery when we don't think that we should or will. And don't get after other people if they've agreed to things today and they just don't have the follow through. None of us have as much wind in our sails as we typically do. And start thinking about what kind of tribe you want to belong to. What kind of homeland makes sense to you? What are the collective stories that we can agree on? Because we have to come up with better ideals. And we have to find a way going into the future to make the ideals that we've professed to have actually real, to live out those things. We've had a lot of aspirations in America. I haven't made all of those really come true. And some of them we only believe that we've accomplished. But it depends on who you ask. Not everybody has the same reality when it comes to what we share, what opportunities that we enjoy. This is going to help us remember that countries are a type of family. Nations are a type of family. And you can love members of your family to pieces. Sometimes you have to admit that you don't like them. It's true. We can love somebody to bits and pieces and have compassion for them and include them and have understanding, but that's a God's honest truth that you don't want to make them into your best friend. But you're still family, and you can still live together. So it'll be an interesting time, and I'm glad that it's happening all in the sign of Cancer, because it does simplify things to some degree when we have retrograde planets that aren't. Yeah, it's not as complex. You know, they're not retracing their steps with multiple themes. So I think it makes it easier to digest overall. All right, guys, that's what I got for today. I was just going to pop in for a minute, but I got all Virgo on you. You guys had some really good comments today. You're right, Lost Days. Jupiter in Cancer also makes the lunations extra powerful. Very much so. Apple pie. Hey, Shay. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Michael. Oh, you guys are so welcome. All right, I'm going to get going. I will check in with you tomorrow. I hope if. I don't have a lot on the books tomorrow, except writing books. So I will try to peel myself away, put on some fake eyelashes, and show up.